Hi everyone. The thing I want to talk about in this video is it sounds so weird to talk about. I've got a bit of mango on me here. It seems so flippant. Is that the right word? Flippant. It seems so flimsy to most people. It seems so comical almost when you raise the idea of eating more fruit, or it could be it could be changing your diet in a bunch of ways, but specifically just eating more fruit, if you know what I'm saying. Like people are dying, getting these terrible diseases, getting these terrible illnesses, and the idea that just eating more fruit could have prevented a lot of people from developing disease. When you if you were just to say that to people, if they were to say, you know what, well, what's your solution to all this? And if you were to say, well, people should eat like more fruit, and they'd be like, "What are you talking about? Like that's so you don't like." They'd almost feel like you didn't care about people. This is the weird thing about this is the weird thing about this really simple message, right? Of eating more fruit, and ultimately, I would like to get people to eat more fruit. I know that most people aren't going to go raw vegan in their lifetime. Um, they've not been brought up on that. They don't have that as a goal or whatever. Most people wouldn't go raw vegan until everyone else was raw vegan, and therefore, how's it going to happen, right? Uh, but when you talk about the power of just eating a small amount more fruit, one piece, two pieces of fruit a day, over an extended period of time, the idea that that can change a person, that can transform a person's health outcome in life, almost seems too simple to be real, you know? And it's kind of weird to get in conversations with people where they're like, you know, well, what's your solution to this health issues, and what would you get people to do, and what would you suggest? And to say, well, they could eat more fruit, because within the medical community it might be that people should, um, that people should take yeah, they should take care of themselves, but they should also be very, when they get problems, they should go and get properly diagnosed. They should take the drugs and the things and the therapies and the things, and they should get all that advice. And they're going to someone that's got at least 8 years of training, but often more. When you're talking about doctors and nurses as well, with lots of years of experience, and the other practitioners, like you're talking about so much effort, energy, learning, application, knowledge, wisdom. Then all the scientists, all the companies, like that all comes together into this massive pile of knowledge that you're going to. And if I'm here saying, well, eat more fruit, it just sounds like too simple to be true. It sounds too, it sounds silly. It's like, who's going to believe that? It's one of the problems. It's like people can't accept how simple it is. It's kind of like it needs to be bigger and more epic for people to accept it, because I don't know. I don't know. It just that's the nature of people. Like people need I don't know. Or you go to the alternative practitioners and they've got herbs and blah blah blah, and then or they go for a spiritual solution. They go to like a shaman or even their priest or whatever, and it's a big once again, it's like a ceremony. It's like a whole thing. It's different weird clothes and who knows what else, and prayers and incantations and incense burning and whatever. Such a deep, powerful experience, right? Consciousness changing experience. So to some degree, like going to the doctor is the equivalent of going to like a shaman or whatever back in the day. You are going to the source of knowledge. You're going to a person that's been selected out of society that has the required intelligence, rational thinking ability, analysis, memory, to be able to look at you and your situation with all that knowledge and give you the answer, you know. And then I'm here going, you should eat more fruit. It's like, who are you gonna go? Who are you gonna go to? You know. That really the solution is to start eating more fruit. If you want to live a healthier life. It doesn't mean you have to transform everything overnight. That's quite a hard thing for people to do. It doesn't really fall in line with how people are. But you start by, say, eating more fruits. A friend of mine said, what would you say is the first thing to do? And I know that she's not raw vegan, not vegetarian, not on a whole foods diet. So for her at the place she's at, I'm like, eat one more piece of fruit per day than you usually would. That's how it starts. If you can get someone to eat one more piece of fruit a day, that habit transforms a person's life. Because you're probably not going to stick at one. You're going to start to like it. You're going to start to like it. And you're going to like the impact. You're going to start to feel some small difference. It may be in your digestion or whatever it is. Having that extra fibre in your diet, extra vitamin C, whatever. You're going to start to feel something over the course of time, and you're going to start to associate positive things with fruit. And you're going to go, well, why don't I'd really like to have 2 apples rather than 1, you know? And the snowball effect, eventually the person's eating, eventually gives up sugary snacks in place of fruit, and they're eating way more fruit in a day, and it's like, that makes a huge impact. If you get people who are on any kind of diet to cut out some of the sugary foods and replace it with fruit, the digestive problems that would disappear. Even with just the addition of a small amount of fruit to the diet, it is so powerful. But it sounds so nothing, That's why I really want to elevate it, because everything else seems so magical compared to an apple or a banana. Even fruitarians, the only magical fruit to them's durian, or some tropical fruit that no one's ever seen. But I'm like, apples. like there's amazing apples. I try and remember that if I'm eating any fruit. I've not eaten an apple, by the way, in a long, long time. I don't think I've had an apple since I've been here. I don't think I've had an apple here for sure. They don't sell apples here. So, 4 or 5 months without an apple. Without an apple. When I was traveling in the US after Woodstock, I was living on apples quite a lot. I was living on apples. Let me tell you something. There's nothing wrong with living on apples for a while. Not 100% apples, but that was my main mono fruit meals. Just go back to those simple fruits. Get people to eat one apple a day. You know that phrase, an apple a day. That is so true. You know, that's probably one of the most successful campaigns ever. Obviously, everyone remembers it, but people kind of get that, an apple a day. There's a lot of people that do that. You know, you know how much worse off they would be if they didn't do that. There's a lot of people that do that, that have that philosophy ingrained in them. Maybe it's not one apple, maybe it's not apple, but maybe it's some type of piece of fruit a day. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So we can encourage people to eat one apple a day, one piece of fruit a day, and not say to them they need to eat the special fruit, but the apple, the orange, the banana, the grapes, like these are just as powerful as the noni, the mangosteen, the canistel, the soursop, blah blah. And you know soursop's like the anti-cancer fruit, and cacao is like some special fruit. You know, all this kind of stuff. But really, every fruit is special. Because of the impact it can have on a person's health. It's a beautiful thing. But you know, I was in a basically I was in this sort of coronavirus. I was getting totally bashed because a friend of mine sort of said, you know, there's been so much overwhelm in the hospitals, been so difficult for the hospitals and you know, and all that. And I just replied like there wasn't really an overwhelm. Like it wasn't really as overwhelming as the media kind of portrayed it to be a little bit. Now, a lot of people who were like doctors and nurses in that thread were replying and basically saying, you're wrong, we were overwhelmed, we had, you know, loads of people and it was a struggle and we're all stressed and we're all like messed up. And I'm like, and I'm quite happy to accept when I'm wrong, you know, like you know, I've been wrong about a lot of stuff, so I'm kind of happy to go, oh well, I guess I've embarrassed myself, I guess I'm wrong again, whatever. But I got the impression there wasn't really overwhelmed because I didn't really see it like, I don't know. Because the other thing I was thinking of was that so many people were staying home that they weren't going to hospital. So there must have, so I was thinking there must be less people. Now, and then I was looking at the cases, number of cases, because I look at the number of cases all the time, number of deaths. So in the UK, I'm like, well, 40,000 cases, or say on the worst day there was 6,000 cases. 6,000 positive tests of COVID. In the UK, there's 1,200 hospitals. So I'm like, well, that's 5 people per hospital, just about. On the worst day, 5 tests, positive tests. I'm like, how could that? Was that really overwhelming? You know, just using my innocent way of looking at the numbers. That's totally not got all the knowledge behind it. I'm just going, we've got 1,200 hospitals in the country, 6,000 cases on that day, and that equates to about 5 people per hospital. Is that really overwhelming? I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. So then a bunch of people were replying to that and they were saying, you know, no, you don't get it. We had loads of people in intensive care. And then I realised, okay, there's actually a lot less hospitals with intensive care units. Okay, so that's different. So then I looked into it a little bit more, and I found the Chief Medical Officer of Scotland, and I saw this news article, and it was like, on the worst day in Scotland, there was 29 admissions to intensive care of coronavirus. On the worst day, there was 29 admissions for the whole of Scotland. Now, Scotland's a small country, but it has 26 intensive care units. 29 people in one day is just over 1 per intensive care unit. And I'm like, surely that's not overwhelming. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but isn't that normal? I don't know. Like, and I'm not saying there aren't stressful things involved in what happened, but the numbers didn't make sense. Either the numbers are totally wrong, or which I'm using innocently. So I'm happy to say, okay, I used numbers that I thought meant something else. And then the chief medical officer of Scotland says we were always within capacity, that we did hard work to open up new beds. So they increased the number of beds from like 175 to 585, which is a big increase, I accept that. But 175 to 585. But he said we were always in capacity. We were always within capacity. Which obviously by definition means they weren't overwhelmed. So I felt like I was justified in what I'd said, maybe. But I got so bashed in that thing. And it's kind of like, what do you know? You don't know anything about this. And I'm like, I'm just looking at the numbers. Like I'm not saying I'm a doctor or I'm not. I don't work in the hospital. I'm just saying 29 across the entire country is not that. I can't imagine it's that bad, that overwhelming. Although someone was saying they had went from 17 to 60. I don't know. None of it really made sense, right? But in those moments where there's a doctor speaking and nurses and they're all involved in the front line and I'm sitting there going, these hospitals wouldn't be even full if you just ate more fruit. Like there wouldn't be anyone there, you know. But it feels so nothing to say that. It feels like so like weak almost. And yet it's true. And you feel kind of stupid, like, oh, you think you know everything about this? I'm like, no, this is just like mainstream information. People eat more fruit, they don't get these conditions so much, you know, or so badly. A lot of the coronavirus deaths. If these people stayed, if I had a place, if I had Ronnie's health prison and they were staying with me, there is, you know, if they were eating like me or staying with me or even eating half like me, they wouldn't have been as vulnerable to coronavirus, you know. Unfortunately, a lot of people have died. Now, a lot of them are super old and they were at that point, but yeah, there's a bunch of people that were unlucky. I don't say coronavirus doesn't exist. By the way, I don't think it's not a virus. I don't think it was made by Bill Gates. I don't think any of that stuff. I just think it wasn't as bad as we thought it would be. That's all. And that lockdown happened because we thought it would be much worse. Now, was it worth locking down for a while? Yeah, I think it was. Was it worth locking down, like, and still being in lockdown, basically? I don't know. I don't. Once again, I'm not saying I'm right about that. Maybe it is. Maybe we should be still in lockdown. But I'm guessing that when we look back on this, when a report's done on this, although I don't know if we'll ever get like a really truly honest report on it all, that we might realise, overall, it was maybe a little bit over the top. You know, 29 on the worst day, 29 admissions to the intensive care units of the entirety of Scotland. Only 5 million people. So it's a small country, but I just can't imagine that's so super overwhelming. Anyway, I guess the message is to eat more fruit. Eat more fruit. You know, this so easy. And then eat more and more fruit. And if you ever wonder why your raw vegan diet's not working, you need to eat more fruit. And you need to get rid. In fact, if it's really not working, get rid of everything else and eat just fruit. And that's what I'm getting to the point. And eat enough fruit. You can't have this like, oh, I can't eat that much. You don't need those words in your life. Bit of a weird video, I guess, but I think I'll post this anyway. And I don't know what name I'll give it, but I'll post it.